Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kasia Jakimowicz from Open Evidence, and I'm responsible for strategic stakeholders engagement for the Observatory. I'm going to be also a moderator of today's session and a speaker as well. One thing before we start, I shared my screen with you so you can see the agenda of today's session. We'll start by a very short introduction to GIPO to anybody that is not familiar with the initiative, and I'm going to discuss the objectives of Federation Roadmap. Very briefly, we're going to discuss the current landscape of Internet governance repositories based on our survey that's performed for the study towards Federation Roadmap. After that, David Osimot from Open Evidence will discuss the concept of Federation of Internet Governance Repositories. And finally, Diego Canabaro from the Brazilian Observatory will give us the perspective of a stakeholder and discuss how the enhanced cooperation between the observatories can proceed. After that, there will be a space for open discussion among stakeholders, and basically this is the purpose of today's webinar, to present the idea of how the cooperation between different observatories and the Global Internet Policy Observatory can proceed, and gather your and critical input on that. I have just a brief introduction. We have a lot of greetings from Teresa Horaisova from Geneva Internet Platform and representing here Digital Watch, and from Fred Clark that sends greetings from Guatemala, as well as Mikael Okie. Okay, so let's start. About the GIPO, very briefly about the GIPO tool, anybody that doesn't know about the initiative. It was initiated in January 2015 with the goal of applying advanced technologies to data that is already available in internet in order to overcome the problem of the complexity and fragmentation of the information on internet governance. So basically, by providing better and clearer access to information, GIPO wants to make it easier for stakeholders to participate in the internet governance debates, and in particular make it easier for the stakeholders that are currently put off by the complexity of the information. GIPO is an automated tool with the needs of the other platforms as its centric focus. So this is something that it's very different when it goes for GIPO and other initiatives. GIPO's Observatory tool is the only observatory platform that strategically focuses on other observatories as one of the main target group, and this derives from the core concept of GIPO tool, which is meant as an automated service tool for others. So this is why the needs of other observatories are a focal point for GIPO tool, for GIPO Observatory and GIPO tool. But other than that, we can say that GIPO targets three different groups of audience. So first group is other observatories and initiatives, then internet governance actors, meeting main events, and policymakers, organizations, and general public interested in internet governance topics. So what are the objectives of GIPO Federation Roadmap? As GIPO Observatory tool does not aim to centralize all the information by replacing the existing spaces, and we are meant to be complementary and federated to them. We are aiming to provide a framework that will enable cooperation among platforms, and by that to build bridges among observatories and avoid the risk of parallel redundant efforts. So So GIPO's Towards Federation roadmap is aimed at analysis of the possible scenarios of collaboration between GIPO and other initiatives, trying to tackle such questions as how can we develop a sustainable basis for a collaboration between online observatory networks in order to increase sustainability in a long-term perspective, and what are the main areas and pending needs of cooperation between observatories. So the objective, to summarize, the objective of Towards Federation roadmap is to define, based on the analysis of the existing initiatives, what could be the concrete features of the collaboration and how we can decide and implement them. So very briefly, and to give you a kind of a perspective, in order to come to the conclusion on the Federation roadmap, we performed a survey among stakeholders. So basically, here you can see I'm not going to go through it, but here you can see the list of stakeholders that we identified in the Federation roadmap process. If you cannot see yourself on the list, please contact me directly, and we're going to set up collaboration. From this 37 stakeholders identified in the process, we invited 33 at the time to take part in the survey, and 8 initiatives participated in the survey itself. Here you can see the list of the initiatives that participated in the survey. And I'm not going to go through all the results, but I'm going to just give you the general perspective on the internet governance repositories landscape. And if you want to go into details, please access the final report that is gonna be available online within 10 days. So basically, as you can see, the landscape consists of many different initiatives. We have observatories, mapping efforts, repositories of knowledge, networks of centers, and as well as research reports. A brief snapshot of results. Stakeholders represent a broad range of organizations, objectives, and functions. We have NGOs, academia, industry, independent initiatives, supranational organizations, etc. And multi-stakeholders collaboration and providing evidence-based policy support. One information about geographical coverage. The majority of them focus on the global coverage of internet governance topics, and if the coverage is local, the initiatives use a local language to deliver information. Very important in terms when we talk about multilingualism, the problem of sharing the information. One thing that is very important from the findings of the survey is that we can see that most of the initiatives are very young. Most of them is founded after 2012 and relatively small. One thing that maybe can be a little bit not correct. You have here Digital Watch from Geneva Internet Platform. It has been initiated as a project 2014, but the Geneva Internet Platform itself lasts longer. But anyway, most of the initiatives are very long. You can say that Internet Governance Repositories, it's a landscape that it's a process in creation, and it's still being shaped. They are also very small at this time, because 50% have only 1 to 2 people assigned to the project, with people often working on a voluntary basis and or part-time. And this is why a lot of them use a mix of internal effort and crowdsourcing of knowledge of external experts. And And basically, this is also why a lot of initiatives mention financial lack of resources as one of the main issues for them. Very briefly, most of the initiatives focus on a few chosen thematic areas. Here you have the division of thematic areas according to the initial GIPO aspects. This was the initial classification that we have used, and this is only for the study purposes. Later on, I'm going to tell you what we decided to do at the end, in the end. So basically, our civic initiatives have in this scope internet governance, but 30% of them have a broader thematic coverage. And out of 12 initiatives that cover only IG topics, 50% has a strict thematic specialization. And very briefly, I already mentioned it, that most of the initiatives state availability of resources for further development as one of the main barriers for collaboration. But what is important to understand is that the barriers of the collaboration that all the initiatives mention are actually the opportunities for collaboration for GIPO, because the GIPO addresses most of these issues. So, as I mentioned, availability of resources is a problem, relevancy of information, but semantics for the making the observatory interoperable with other initiatives is mentioned as a critical issue, and multilingualism is a major concern. So very briefly about interoperability of the platforms. Interoperability of the platforms is actually the main concept behind the Federation of NATO, as GIPO is an automated tool. So basically, two systems need to be able to communicate with each other to benefit from maximal cross-usability. And in order for the system to be interoperable, we can talk about two different kinds of interoperability. One is syntactic interoperability, and the other is semantic interoperability. The first one, the syntactic one, is judged upon analysis of domain. So we talk about it as a technological interoperability. This one is judged upon analysis of two main elements, and I'm going to stress it because it's going to be important for all the other platforms if they want to use GIPO, or if they are in the process of creation, to look at those two factors and try to safeguard them if they want to be interoperable with any other platforms. So first one is the existence of public access to file speeds in XML-based format, which means machine-readable format. And the second one is the existence of access of API, open or on request. Basically, we say it can be open or on request, but basically a public API. So the application which allows the software to talk to each other. We analyze all the surveyed platforms, and from the variety of platforms, we see that most of them uses the content management systems that can be extended with an API, or can also export content via RSS feed. But actually, it's not enough. And from the pure technical point of view, observatories should provide not only classic web interfaces, but also an open public API access that allows system to interoperate. And right now, almost none of the observatories does it. So that's the first point. The second one is that in order for the observatories to be interoperable, it's not enough to have the RSS feed or machine-readable format or common API, but what is also important is that observatories agree on a common set of metadata to share. So a common set of, in other words, so-called controlled vocabulary. So a common set of metadata to share means that initiatives agree on a common dictionary of vocabulary underlying the internet governance classification. So initiatives should align on common set of keywords, official words, and phrases that will be always used in the tool and other tools. and for the concepts or things that they represent. And upon these keywords, the information will be sourced to or from other observatories. And we are not only talking about GIPO observatory tool, but all the other observatory tools. So these keywords function as a tag, a type of label of data tag, which makes it easier to find and organize information with specific content. And right now, this set of vocabulary doesn't exist. And the initiative just started to talk about it. The effort has been initiated by the GovLab and Stefan Verhulst, that unfortunately couldn't be with us. This process still requires further ownership. These are the things that are most important for the interoperability. We have another concept just to classify, just to organize a little bit the. We have a concept of general classification. And the interoperability of online platforms, this is not the crucial topic. Nevertheless, in order to avoid fragmentation of information and create synergies between existing platforms, it is advisable to focus on using one of the existing classifications of internet governance topics, the official classification, the general one, and not to create new classifications. And that was also the idea behind GIPO. We analyzed different classifications existing among observatories, and you can see it in the table and come back to it later on. And at the end, as you can see in the orange, you see what we were thinking about initially. We thought about introducing our own classification, dividing all the topics into 5 aspects, but in the end we decided to use and align with existing taxonomy, and we decided to use the Digital Watch taxonomy created by DIPLO Foundation in order to support the whole idea of creating synergies and overcoming and avoiding further fragmentation. And the last thing from me is I'm going to present you just the snapshot of the GIPO observatory tool. You can also see that we are using here underneath the classification of the Digital Watch. The tool will be available within 10 days, will be open to the public. Please search for the information on our internet site. And now I'm going to give the voice to David Osimo, who's going to present the approach of GIPO to federation.
Thank you very much, Kasia. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. So we have had a comprehensive picture by Kasia on what is the current status regarding internet governance, observatories, and platforms. What is the state of the art? What is the situation today? Based on this, we elaborated some ideas related to the possible future scenarios for collaboration between these platforms. Now, we have to start by saying that the federation doesn't mean a lot. Federation is a very broad concept, and you can have very different ways to collaborate. Federation is basically the large gray area that stands in between a single hierarchical organization on the one hand and a set of fully independent initiatives on the other hand. And it is fair to say that the current situation of internet governance is the one depicted on the right, a set of fully independent initiatives, and many of them, as you've seen, and constantly evolving with new initiatives emerging very quickly. So this is the concept of a federation. However, in the specific domain of internet governance, why is this important? Why is this particularly important? Is that the common goal, these initiatives have a common goal, and the common goal they have is to make internet governance better understood, to have more people engaged in internet governance, to have more people involved, more people aware of its importance, and taking part in the key decisions that are being taken for the organizational setting and institutional setting underlying the internet. So it is actually necessary that these initiatives start working together under a common goal. And as an example of this collaboration, we have looked at different fields, and I think we have found something that can inspire us. As you know, climate change is a topic which has been in different organizations, and there are a lot of NGOs working to raise awareness and to feed the policy debate on climate change. And climate change is a complex topic covering basically very different domains, and with where we are basically flooded under an overload of information. And these features are actually similar to internet governance. So it's an important policy matters, complex, with many actors, many domains, difficult to make sense of it. So we look at what happened there also through the ESA project of the European Commission, who did actually an analysis of the different organizations. And we discovered that one of these organizations, Climate Knowledge Brokers Group, is actually a federation in itself. So basically there were 21 web initiatives in the field of climate change that were working on the same topic. They decided to come together and start a common group. They organized via LinkedIn discussion group and coordinated by a steering group. And they focus on 4 things: really understanding user needs, pointing user to the right platforms, connecting up platforms, and avoid reinventing the wheel. And I think especially for the last point, this is exactly what we should be aiming at. Obviously, it is a difficult task. And it is a difficult task because collaboration, it's easy to talk about collaboration, but collaboration has a cost. Collaboration is difficult. We here map the cost and the benefits of collaboration on the financial, organizational, and also on the world mission side. So it is a cost for organizations to set up and maintain the collaboration. We know it very well. We interact with these 30 initiatives, and it's you need the time to dedicate to this. But on the other side, you can benefit, you can share costs and resources, you maximize and even minimize costs. On the organizational level, we have to admit that anytime you collaborate and you promote another initiative, you risk being somehow losing some of your visibility. On the other hand, when there is also the advantage of increasing visibility because of the federated approach. Because, for instance, today we have Diego Cannavaro, and we have had webinars with other organizations. And finally, there is also an issue of mission. I mean, as we have seen, the internet governance platforms are really active, not exactly on the same topic, and obviously there is a risk that if you focus on privacy, your issue might be somehow diluted in this federative approach. Now, we don't want to give a bleak image, because at the end of the day, the most important point is that collaboration and federation is necessary in order to deliver better service. We cannot ask users to browse through tens of platforms when we have all the common goal to reduce information fragmentation. So we need to rationalize, and we give better services to the users. But we have to be honest, so we have to start from an assessment of the reality, and the reality is that we have to consider both cost and benefit if we want collaboration to work. Now, it's also important that technology helps us, because as Kasia has clearly said, today federation does not mean doing a common website or going under a common organization. It doesn't mean structure a hierarchy. The web enables us to seamlessly federate content without losing visibility, to share data, to basically syndicate content through other services without losing in terms of visibility. And this is actually the technological underpinning that should inspire us. So what do we mean by a federational roadmap? I think there are different, what we say here is not a roadmap. What we say here is the basis for a roadmap. So are the elements that are going to be combined and decided to define the collaboration. But there is one component which is crucial, is the specialization approach. I mean, we know that different organizations, different platforms are good at something. Like we use the taxonomy of the Geneva Internet Platform because they've been working on this for a lot. GIPO has an initial and a particular focus on semantic analysis and enrichment and treatment of multilingual issues. Each platform has its strengths and its weaknesses, and there's a clear scope to specialize and to use specialized resources, both in terms of content, but also in terms of service provider. For instance, in GIPO, we are quite good at doing webinars, and we can help others with that. I mean, that's just a joke, but we are talking about thematic and service specialization. But most importantly, we can think of really GIPO as a platform of an information layer approach to the federation. So there was this famous network effects of services mentioned by Cole. On the web, every new services can build on top of every other existing service, and every service, a piece of data added to the web makes every other service potentially more powerful. So we could think of a federation where different services are active on different layers. Let me give you an example with this image. We can envisage the three traditional data layers of information organization. So a data layer, an analysis layer, and a presentation layer. We can think that there is a data layer where basically sources and observatories share data, and each observatory becomes a source for the other observatory. We can envisage an analysis layer where, in the case of GIPO, GIPO can help others by providing a unique service, which is the automated text analysis and enrichment. And other observatories focus more on human analysis and curation. GIPO has this original bit, which is the text analysis and semantic enrichment. And other observatories could use this and enrich it with human analysis, because GIPO does not emphasize human analysis. But on the presentation layer, we don't have to think of a centralized approach. We can think of an approach where all observatories present the information in the way they see fit. So we can basically design and envisage a kind of functional specification across the information organization layers. Again, this remains quite high level, but what we mean by it will become more concrete here. We actually asked in the survey all these services to signal areas of collaboration. What they do suggest, and what some of you who are here today suggest, is that the first issue is syndicating services and content, link exchange, but also syndication through RSS, and producing policy relevant materials, working on common data, on shared database. There could be a common conceptual cooperation, like development on some standards, for instance, the taxonomy, designing common research project, educational project, and policy relevant material. There could be a cooperation at the level of events and training and courses. So there are common events to raise awareness on internet governance, co-organized event and educational project, and participation in seminars and webinars. And finally, communication at the level of communication. So collaboration at the level of promotion, cross-presentation, cross-dissemination. There are different things that can be done together, from purely technological, like syndicating content, to organizational setting, like organizing event, designing educational projects. And all these are the elements, these are the ingredients of the roadmap. These are the elements that we're going to fit in the roadmap. Now, these points are different scenarios. One scenario is the full technical interoperability, where basically GIPO uses data sources from other from other platforms, and these platforms use GIPO RSS feeds. There can be also a partial integration with the other, as we have seen from the presentation, GIPO will be offering RSS feeds and open data, so other simply could be unidirectional, where our observatories use this RSS feed to enhance their information provision. There could be integration only at the conceptual and communication level, and last but not least, there could be a new service provided, for instance, new joint services. So we can envisage a situation where the API and the RSS feed from GIPO are then reworked and curated by third-party observatories, and the data and the curated data, for instance, the keyword associated by it are then fed back into the GIPO platform to improve its algorithm and its classification methods. These are different scenarios, but how to make this happen? And in conclusion, I think we have to end with a kind of program of work for next year, because as we pointed out at the beginning, this is the first release of the Federation roadmap, and it's really in 1 year time that we are going to have a full roadmap. These are just the ingredients, the elements that to assemble during this year. And first, clarify the value proposition. So we need to be clear what are the cost and the shared benefits, also in terms of greater impact. So there should be a transparent declaration of what's in it for me, for each player in this. At the same time, we know that the landscape is changing very quickly, so we should lower the barriers to collaboration. We should not expect formal requirements, formal collaboration frameworks, but really low entry collaboration. This year we experimented maybe with the lowest level of collaboration, which is participation in webinars. But next year will be about creating engagement and collaboration through basically information reuse, and we want to make this as easy as possible, for instance, by releasing our RSS feeds. The third part is about growing organically. We cannot expect to have a common general assembly of all the internet observatories and then establish a joint agenda together and a joint roadmap. We suggest to the Commission to grow this platform organically and to not be afraid somehow to establish partnership on a bilateral level that are then further developed. So we think this is a kind of coalition of the willing. Whoever is interested to collaborate, to share data, should be involved, and we don't have to reach a common agreement from day one about a common taxonomy. The fourth point is about this. Is about deepening and widening the work on common vocabularies. There is a need, and we have started already, and we have actually started by giving an example. GIPO is not inventing a new taxonomy. We have adopted the Geneva Internet Platform Fund, and we need to work together to define common vocabularies. This is probably the most urgent thing, because it is the basis of interoperability and syndication. And finally, we should continue the awareness raising about internet governance, because this is we cannot forget the big picture. The big prize is to raise awareness on internet governance towards the wider public, not just towards the other platforms. We have developed a more detailed set of steps, but I don't think this is the place to discuss this, and we have been quite long already, so I would like to give back the floor to Kasia, and thanks a lot.
Okay, so that was our part. Now I would like to give the voice to Diego, who will share with us the perspective of the observatory.
Hi, good morning to all of you who are following this webinar. unfortunately, I don't know why I do not see any interaction on the chat, and I'm not able to type in the chat. So I apologize for not having said good morning or good afternoon or good evening before. My name is Diego Canabarro, and I work for the Brazilian Internet Steering Committee. The Internet Steering Committee in Brazil is a multi-stakeholder council comprised by representatives from the government sector, technical and academic communities, the civil society, and also the business sector in the country. And so it's a true multi-stakeholder entity. It's not a governmental entity, despite of the fact that it was commissioned to exist by a governmental decree. CGI, the Brazilian Internet Steering Committee, is hosted and funded by the Brazilian Network Information Center, which is in charge of the country code top-level domain .br. So that whole institutional framework decided to set up the Brazilian Internet Observatory to serve in the first place the Brazilian Internet community, and also to provide some relevant information and intelligence for decisions which are taken by the council, by the board of CGI.br itself. The project started in 2010, and in 2014 it was put back together in-house. Before that, we outsourced the Brazilian Internet Observatory. I would like to start, and I will take only 5 minutes, with this idea of enhanced cooperation among observatories, monitors, maps, repositories, because I think that metaphor is very good to describe the moment that we are living. Enhanced cooperation, as you probably know, is a term which was embodied in the WSIS Declaration in 2005, and we still have no idea what does enhanced cooperation for Internet governance means. So we are still trying to figure out what enhanced cooperation for observatories, maps, monitors, repositories are. This is these dialogues, these idea dialogues with what Kasia and David has just have. And they asked me to come here as the Brazilian Internet Observatory to comment on the idea of the federation and the developments that we observed during 2015 in relation to the achievement of the goal of our having a federation among our different projects. So you guys can check our project, the Brazilian Internet Observatory, despite of the fact that our analytical content, the texts which are published by our contributors, they are all published in Portuguese. We have established a system which tries to gather content in Portuguese, English, and Spanish to serve the Brazilian community, but also the whole Latin America that surround us. And our RSS feed, which is what we call our fast track of Internet governance developments, can serve other countries that do not have Portuguese as their official or native language. Our main goal with the observatory is not actually just the RSS feed, but we intend with this project, and we have been working in the last 2 years in the composition of a network of contributors. And they can be observatories as you are, but they can also be research entities, academic institutions, think tanks, and so on, which can produce content in any language whatsoever to serve the global Internet community. And our main goal with that is to create an official Internet governance repository in Brazil that is structured in the same way and the same fashion that Kasia and David have just presented to us. The whole idea of a technical part of that project, but also a much more political and policy-oriented repository that can serve those communities. We actually would like to raise just some questions that stem from what we have just observed in the previous presentations. It is very, very, very important, the leadership of GIPO in focusing observatories, maps, which are proliferating in the last couple of years. We commend the effort of identifying what the current landscape is. For that, and based on this idea, the playing field and what are the different stakeholders in this micro ecosystem of Internet observatories, maps, and so on. Together with GIPO, with Diplo Foundation, the Internet and Jurisdiction Project, and several other initiatives who would attend IGF in 2015, we here, with the authorization of CGI.br, we decided to bring this conversation to the Internet Governance Forum, which was held here in Brazil in 2015. And we decided to continue the dialogue that we established in that occasion through the network of mappers, which is sustained by the NYU GovLab. And we decided that in 2016 we would continue dialoguing on the future of cooperation among our different projects. So that's why Kasia invited me to be here, just to say that besides these GIPOs working on the practical aspects of collaboration and integration, this process that we inaugurated in the IGF aims at providing a sort of high-level focal point for conversation on the process of establishing a federation, so that we can make the process of establishing this federation to continue to be bottom-up, because we cannot run the risk of having a top-down established federation. So some of the key takeaways that we've been observing in this 2015, but especially that connect to what Kasia and David have just presented, are the fact that there are two things, in my personal opinion, that still need a better conversation, and I would like to leave these questions for our conversations. The first one is multilingualism, which is one of the requisites and one of the goals of the Tunis agenda in 2005, and we are far from that. Right after we solve the technical issue and we create a common semantics for all of those projects, we should start thinking in how to make our resources, our human resources, our financial resources, our technical resources, to serve the purpose of translating the content that is generated in a distributed manner by these initiatives and projects that shall feed into the GIPO tool. But we should also try to direct the whole process of building a federation, not only to provide information and intel for influencing and for determining the results of internet governance processes, but perhaps it's now time for us to step back a little in those discussions and try to focus in the notion of capacity development in the process of sharing those resources that we have, especially with nations in the global south, because it seems that we are now taking for granted the fact that anyone will be able to use the GIPO tool. But we know pretty much that asymmetries in this interconnected world, they can simply increase the gap between those who are able to use the GIPO tools and those who want to use the GIPO tools. I would end by saying that I think that the next step for taxonomy would be our starting a conversation on how to make the DPLUS taxonomy a bit more granular. There are 5 categories. They cover loads of different things. And so we could classify, for instance, an issue related to network neutrality as something that is related to infrastructure, but it's also a social issue, and it involves economic issues. So that's a first step, and I would suggest that for our agenda in 2016, we could put that idea of making that granularity in taxonomy as one of our main objectives. With that, I thank you all for your attention, and you guys can write me if you have any doubt, any opinion. And I would just like to remember you, if you want to have a glimpse on what we have discussed in the IGF 2015, you could join the website of the Internet Governance Forum and check the reports of that workshop. There's part of that report developed in an automated fashion by the guys in the Geneva Internet Platform. Teresa is in the chat. She can give details on that. And it was very important for our getting a glimpse of what happened in automated terms, but there's also a human-made description of what we had. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Diego. I think your presentation was absolutely spot on, and also rightly critical. And I think for us, what should be clear is that what we spelled out is certainly not a roadmap for the others. It's just an opportunity for collaboration, and this will be taken up in 2016. We agree on the points regarding multilingualism and taxonomy, as you know. I think it is clear that what we meant with our presentation is also that GIPO is not designed to be the central platform that serves all public. It is, if GIPO is to succeed, it is if it becomes a service also to observatories like you, for instance, for reaching the Brazilian public. So we very much look forward to having collaboration, a concrete collaboration in 2016. Some of the points that you mentioned, and I think this fits perfectly within our plan. And we also are active in the network of is an ideal mailing list to follow up on this discussion. So thanks a lot. I think Teresa wants something to say. So.
Yes. Good afternoon. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes.
This is Teresa from Digital Watch Geneva Internet Platform talking. Thank you, Kasia, for organizing this other webinar of GIPO. Thanks to David and Diego. It's also good to see, so many familiar faces, actually names. I don't see the faces here in many of you. We ourselves are in touch. As you know, many of you have done a lot of efforts to make the number of observatories on internet governance issues that are available complementary to each other. And this is an argument I keep repeating, that all of us have its specific niche and serve specific communities. And as a bottom line, if we decide to go using taxonomy, it would be only beneficial for the end user from any possible field, be it diplomacy, be it the technical community, policy community, and others. So we are very open to having further conversations in this direction on the use of GIPO and Geneva Internet Platform taxonomy. What I wanted to stress, however, that our taxonomy and the current state of it is not carved in stone. This is a work that our team has been working on for many years, but it keeps developing. Only, to give you a few examples, our taxonomy originally had 5 baskets, but had to be enlarged to more baskets to cover, for instance, some of the human rights, cybersecurity, and other angles which we considered to be unsatisfactorily covered in the taxonomy as it was some years ago. So it is work in process. It is work that requires a lot of resources, be it the expertise, be it also financial resources. So I would also like you to consider this project, if possible, as a work in progress, as something that needs attention of the community. And we are very happy to continue these discussions with all of you or through GIPO in 2016. I hope I covered the question, at least in its basic form, but please feel free to ask more.
I hope that you can actually hear me right now.
Yes.
Because we have a slight issue with the computers. Yes, as you could actually, yes, of course, we're going to continue the process and to ask everybody that want to cooperate in the whole process to join us. And you can always contact me, and I'm going to follow up on further contact. As you noticed, Teresa, we recommended and we decided as GIPO, because this is how you spell the name GIPO, we decided to follow the initial classification of Diplo Foundation, and for sure it would be great, as Diego suggested, to work a little bit on its development, or to be included in the process and in the consultations. Let me see whether we have some questions. Not sure whether we have anything else from anybody. No, for now it's all. Let me remind you that if you have any questions, just post it now or raise a hand, and we're gonna try to answer any of them. If you want to have voice, just raise hand, and I'm gonna give you the voice. I don't see any suggestions from the attendees right now. Please raise hand if you have further comments. I see one from Christina. I'm gonna give Christina the voice. Christina, can you hear us right now?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. This is Christina from the European Commission. Thank you very much for your presentations. I just had a remark concerning Kasia presentation, where you focused on the 3 main groups that could be the GIPO targeted audience, and this included the other observatories, Internet governance actor and main events, as you know, the IGF forum, and then the third group you mentioned was policymakers and organizations involved in Internet governance topics. And considering that another really interesting groups, even if it is maybe smaller, but with a lot of potentiality, concerns Internet governance schools, because so here I think there is a trend where we see, you know, more and more schools and specific workshops and training being provided in different parts of the world, focusing on Internet governance topic. And I think that GIPO could be a very tool also for this kind of users. Basically, this is more than a question, but I hope this is something that could be explored also in the future, and I would be happy to, you know, so provide some of the schools that are dealing with Internet governance. There are a few very active also in Latin America, for example, but also in Europe, and also there are efforts going on in Africa in this sense. So this is something also which could be considered.
I know also that Diego to receive a voice. We are trying. I don't know why we cannot hear you, Diego, right now. Maybe we're gonna try to. Okay. Diego, can you try to speak right now?
Hi.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi. So, well, I would just like to jump into two different things which were said here, and I would just like to thank Kasia and David for the great work they've done with this webinar, but also their tirelessly effort to create an environment in which anyone and any project can collaborate with the Federation towards its let's say, horizontality. I would like to talk about granularity. Teresa just talked about Diplo's Foundation, and I think there is a lot of room for all of our projects to help Diplo to specify and make more granular all the baskets that they have in the categories that comprise those baskets. And also to follow up on what Christina just said, Internet governance schools are a great focus group, but I think that we could enlarge that to put a fifth group there, which is general population, because GIPO, sorry for the misspelling of GIPO, but GIPO could be also a tool for the general education of population, of our populations, our people, in topics related to Internet governance. If we stop there in other observatories, diplomats and policymakers, we might lose sight of the importance of making content accessible, available, and comprehensible for people in general, such as my grandmother, for instance. She asks what I do for a living, and she cannot understand. So if we could simply make content also more easily available and comprehensible for the overall population, that would be a fifth great target group that we could start talking. So 2016 would be great for discussing granularity, taxonomy through the different channels and events and webinars that we have, but also on how we could make content more easily accessible and comprehensible for the population. Thank you.
Very sorry, but we have to finish because we already exceeded the time for the webinar. So what just from the comments from the public, I also seen that Thomas already shared the information about the School of Internet Governance. I can share it with you all. And Fred Clark confirmed that we will have an IGF school in March in Latin America. And I don't see any further questions. We're going to try, all the materials from the webinar is going to be available online. We're going to also follow up on all the actions. I see that Christina still is raising her hand, and maybe I'm going to try to give the voice to Christina for the final word. Let's see. Hi, Christina. Do you have anything to add? But I cannot hear Christina right now. Unfortunately, we really. Hello.
Hi, this is Diego. Let me just ask you one thing. Is there any room for the revisions of the survey to include Internet governance schools as sources of information and knowledge that can feed into GIPO?
Diego, yes, we're gonna discuss it further on and come back to you with some answer. Unfortunately, we're really right now, so thank you all very much. If you have any further question, please follow up via email to me, and please mark that the material will be available online within 1-2 days. Thank you very much.